Helen Huang, number 1. Abby Jimenez, right behind her. The Evil Eye and the Grecian Coast. Oh, and we'll see if I come to regret that statement. Hello everybody. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Casual. For those who are new here, we are so glad to have you here today. We are back in front of the bookshelf. We are here with a new book video. Lexi posted one and so did Katie. So thank you so much for giving me the idea, everybody, for a mid-year freak out tag. It's June. Isn't that insane? The year is almost said basically over. The year is halfway over. We're rolling into summertime. It's getting hot if you live anywhere in the South or in any kind of tropical area. It's getting hot out there. It's a time that we can reflect on how our year has gone, how reading has been, if you kind of want to change any kind of goals or trajectory for your reading journey throughout the year. I know one of my goals that I need to do is update Storygraph a lot more than I do, because then I would get the stats that I love seeing on everybody's channels, more so than I have for myself. So y'all keep me accountable to update my Storygraph. Feel free to like or follow or comment or whatever it is that you do on there. Shows how much I use it that I don't even know how you become friends. We are here with our list of questions. I'm actually going to be using Katie's list of questions. So there's several that she adds towards the end. So it takes the number of questions from 11 to 19. I have quite the stack of books here, but also, if you guys know, I'm on my journey of becoming more sustainable. So I have a ton of library books that I have already returned, so I won't be able to hold them up physically. Some of them I did go and buy physical copies because they were just that good that I wanted to keep them forever. But a lot of them I didn't, or they're on my Kindle. So we'll have like a digital copy on the screen. Let's just jump right into it. First question is the best book that we've read in 2024 so far. This was a tough one because I really don't have that many 5 stars so far this year. I only had about 3, 4 to pick from. I'll say the book that surpassed 5-star and went into 6-star territory was The Heart Principle by Helen Huang. Y'all have heard me shout from the rooftops about how much I love Helen Huang. I love her writing. I love her autism representation and, you know, just being on the spectrum and figuring out what that means for you. This book is probably the deepest of them all. When I went through my Goodreads hot takes a couple months ago, feel free to watch the video, I used this as an example, and somebody on there talked about how it wasn't a romance book, and you're right. It's not. Nobody talks about that for Emily Henry because they all know that going in. However, when your cover looks like this, you think it's just gonna be this fluffy romance, and it's just not. So know that going in. More women's fiction than it is fluffy romance. But it will make you feel all the feels. It's a 6-star. I want her to come out with new books, like immediately. The next question is the best sequel that we've read in 2024. So for that one, I'll have to say Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. I'm not going to be repeating any books, so a lot of these books go with more than one question, so I'm having to kind of split them up and pull in more books than I want to, because literally this one would solve like 8, 9 of these questions, so I need to branch out a little bit. Practice Makes Perfect by Sarah Adams. It has to do with the sister of the love interest in the first book, which is When in Rome. And I don't have these specifically because I borrowed them from my library. I actually have borrowed from the library the rule book, so I'll be reading that hopefully sometime this month or next month. I just really liked it. I think it was a good kind of spiritual successor in the sense of like it actually is a sequel, because we do see Noah and Amelia, the couple from the first book, and they're going to be getting married. So it is actually a sequel. It's not like they're happening at the same time or that you never really see the other couple. Like, they're fully ingrained. The storyline has continued, and I just really liked that aspect of it. Question number 3, a new release you haven't read yet but want to. I have quite the story. I have quite the stack to go with this question. So one of them that I'm waiting until the fall is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. I have never read a Leigh Bardugo book. Let me know down in the comments if I need to read the other ones first. I don't think this goes with anything. I don't think it's like connected to any of them. I think it's a standalone. But if there's like her writing is getting so much better over time, and then if you try to go back to her earlier works that it, you can really tell. That happened with me and Abby Jimenez. Unfortunately, I went backwards basically in her discography and her backlog and her novels. Unfortunately, I think the rating of them was reflected by that, because I could tell, oh, this was her first book that she published. That kind of thing. So I'm trying to avoid that with Elsie Silver, and I want to know if I need to avoid that with Leigh Bardugo as well. Next, in that same stack I have from the library, Annibot. This is about a sentient robot that is programmed to be like a companion to a basically lonely man. So she's programmed to like fit herself perfectly to his wants and his needs. She kind of grows to be more than that over time. This reminds me so much of a podcast that I listen to that I cannot think of the name, but I'm definitely gonna look it up and insert it here. And it had basically the same plot line of starts out as a companion robot for a man and grows into something more than that and more independent and coming into her own. I don't know if this is going to be an exact copy or if it's going to go in a totally different direction. I hope it's the latter, but I'm interested to see how it goes. And then we have Mercury by Amy Jo Burns. I've never read anything by this author, but this book sounds really, really interesting. More of a family drama, small town. The town is kind of drying up economically due to lack of jobs. How these interconnected families in the early 1900s? No, 1990s. In Mercury, Pennsylvania. And how this one woman kind of inserts herself into this family and how it kind of, I don't know if they're going to fall apart or if they're going to do well. I'm interested to see. Next, I have Honey by Isabel Banta. This one just came out as of me filming this video. It's about a pop star in the 90s and the exploitation and the career highs and lows and stress and joy and all of it that goes with being a young pop star. Artists like Britney Spears and Amanda Bynes and Drew Barrymore, and we see how growing up in that industry can be so toxic. I'm interested to see the fictionalization kind of combining all of those aspects into like one story. We'll see if it does those stories justice or if it fails. And then lastly in this section, I want to read Middle Tide by Sarah Crouch. This is a true crime. Man finds body hanging in the woods and knows the person and has to figure it out before they get blamed, I believe. Don't quote me on that one to keep this video from being too long. That's what we're going with. It looks so fall time, honestly, or like rainy day, but it's respecting our time. It's only like 200 something pages, not even 300 pages, 270. I'm interested to see how they can do a whole crime in 270 pages. We're thinking more Criminal Minds episode instead of full suspense film. So I hope that nothing falters or is left out for sake of time in this regard. Let's hope that they really like flush out the entire case. The next question is a most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And I'm counting this because it hasn't come out yet after I'm doing this mid-year tag. And that is Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. I absolutely love this cover. The lime green that he used in Home After Dark, Home Before Dark is making return. And I have heard mixed reviews based off of people that have gotten ARC copies, and I really hope that I am in the minority that likes it. I've read every other book that he has written under his pen name of Riley Sager. He has other novels that he wrote first that I haven't read, but I'm interested to see. From what I can tell, It seems like it takes place in a dual timeline, sometime in either the 80s or the 90s, and then now. And it has to do with like when the protagonist was a child versus when they're an adult now. Someone goes missing and then they come back. Some of his books have been absolute bangers and some of his books have been absolute duds. So we'll see which one this is. What was your biggest surprise of 2024? I would say just discovering Sarah Adams in general. I have always seen her books of, you know, The Cheat Sheet, Rule Book, When in Rome, Practice Makes Perfect. And I've heard that they're romances, they're cute, they have cute covers, they have cute characters. I didn't realize how deep they could have been. And the two that I've read have both been spot on 4.5, which I don't normally have for a romance novelist. They might have a banger and they might have an okay, but I haven't had two hits out of one author in a while in the purely romance category. So I hope that the more that I read, the more I will continue to like them. Favorite new author, either debut or new to me. So we'll go with new to me, and that will be Annabelle Monaghan. I think I'm saying that right. I have read Nora Goes Off Script and Same Time Next Summer. I really liked both of those books. I liked that they were respectful of our time. I think both of them were under 300 pages. They were deep in the sense of like you see these women go through life change, but it doesn't feel forced. I just couldn't put them down. She has another book that just released that I'm trying to decide if I want to buy it or if I want to wait for it to come to my library, either digitally or physically. I'm just so scared that we'll have, you know, two great ones and then it'll drop off. So that's why I'm afraid to buy the third by the same author and then it be a dud. Let me know if you guys have read it down in the comments and if it's worth picking up. Newest fictional crush. So these I'm gonna have to go back into a book that I've already talked about of Kwan. So thoughtful, so hot, so intense, so caring, so understanding of her and her journey to like understand who she is and why she is the way she is and if she can handle going on like this. Definitely a man written by a woman in both of the cases that I'm gonna say, but we love him. It's good to have also an Asian character representation. I read a lot of books about white people. Let's be real, everybody does. And so it's nice to kind of go out of that bound and get an insight into a culture that you don't share and just kind of see the way things are different with family ties and with cultural expectations and stuff that I don't have. So I think that's cool. Maybe some people don't. I like it. And then the next fictional crush, Justin from Just for the Summer. Again, definitely a man written by a woman, I've got to say. However, he's great. He acts more like a man than Kwan does in the sense of like he can get angry faster, but he's also so understanding and patient. Even though he's going through his own stuff, he doesn't ever want to push any of that onto the female main character. Those two are my fictional crushes for sure. A book that made you cry. So I'm gonna come out of left field, honestly, and say Fangirl Down by Tessa Bailey. I blew through this book. I have such a soft spot for Tessa Bailey, and I don't know why. Her books are so spicy, but like deceivingly so. And I didn't feel as strongly about another series of hers that I had read, but Fangirl Down, I hope it becomes a series. I don't know how it would because we didn't really have any other characters, but it was so good. I love a grumpy sunshine. He is boy obsessed. He is down bad so fast. And then there's some health problem representation. She has type 1 diabetes. So him like learning how to take care of her and how to notice when she needs things, how to look outside of himself and take care of someone else when he's been solo for so long. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. A book that made me happy. Book that made you happy. I'm gonna have to say The Bride Test by Helen Huang. This is about the female main character who comes over from Vietnam in kind of an arranged marriage situation to Kai, who is Kwan's younger brother. It made me happy to see her grow, to see her focus on herself, to see her visions for her actual like future going forward come true. And there was a point where you weren't sure if that was gonna happen. But then, you know, it's a romance book. How bad could it be? And we see her like trial and error, trying to figure out what works for her and taking these English classes and just really becoming her own. And it was just so heartwarming to see. Next question is the most beautiful book that you've bought or received this year. I have a couple to pick from. So one that I bought from a library sale is called Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil by John Berend. I don't know if I'm saying that right. This is a nonfiction about some murders that happened in Savannah, Georgia. And I think that this is just gorgeous. I don't know what it is about the actual like picture, about the fact that she's a girl, just a girl and not an angel or something in this graveyard. And then the little frame that goes around it and the orange with the green. I think it's just great. We love a 25 cents, baby. Next, I have two fantasies. One was a book of the month, and it's A Fate Inked in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. I think that this cover is gorgeous on its own. The Barnes & Noble version, I think, is like embossed and raised and shiny and glossy and stuff. I got this from Book of the Month, so it's more, you know, matte and flat, which I still love. We gotta love a hot lady on a cover, you know? What else do you need? And then lastly, in the prettiest cover, we have a sequel, The Hemlock Queen by Hannah Witten. I absolutely loved The Foxglove King. I have never talked about it on my channel before, and I have yet to read this book, but I really, really liked it. It was one of the books that got me back into reading, and I went out and bought it, and so I have a trophy of it as well. And I will be continuing the series, and I just love the way that these covers look. And for those who don't know, this is hemlock, this white flower. This white flower here. Hemlock the tree is not the poison part. It's hemlock, the white flower that you see growing on the side of the road. Please don't ever pick it with your bare hands. It will absorb into your skin and make you sick. So if you think it's Queen Anne's lace, check. Queen Anne's lace will have hair on the stem. If it doesn't have any hair on the stem and it has purple blotches, do not touch it. That's a herbalism side of me coming out, but just trying to protect you guys and keep you from getting sick. But the whole point of this book is that poisons are not a currency. They're a drug in this society. It's a fantasy book. Can highly recommend The Foxglove King. I can't really tell you too much about this book without spoiling the first one. So, love triangle fantasy romance. Actually done well though, not a weird one, not a Twilight one. What books do you need to read by the end of the year? So you can go back to my 24 for 2024 video and I go through a lot of them. Some of the ones that I am going to really focus on is Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. I'm going to focus on The Shining by Stephen King and Emma by Jane Austen. Those are my top ones that I really want to focus on because I'm not sure that I'll actually read them. I think the other ones will come a little more naturally, but I actually have to work on those. And then moving on into Katie's questions, what books do you want to reread this year? So I am not a big rereader. I don't think I ever have reread a book, to be honest. Yeah, this is tough for me. I feel like life is too short to reread books when there are so many. However, the only one I think that I could see myself rereading would be Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang, which I don't have a physical copy of, because it was just so sweet. And since I've read the other two, going back and visiting the first one again and seeing them get together would just be really adorable. Okay, now I kind of want to. Next question. Your favorite author so far this year. So different than the new author that I found, but my favorite author that I've gotten so far this year is probably a tie. Well, it's not a tie. There's a first and then the second is like right there. They're close, but they're not quite on the same level. So Helen Huang, number one. Abby Jimenez, right behind her. Right behind her. If there was some by Abby Jimenez that were better than they were, if that makes sense. Like, her writing has gotten so much better over time, but it had to start somewhere, whereas Helen Huang's writing, I feel like, started at that next level. So Abby Jimenez has gone up exponentially, but Helen Huang has started up and just went up from there. One book, either way, from either author, could tip the scales. The next question is books that you've been putting off. I have two big ones. Two big book talk, bookstagram, booktube darlings that everybody loses their damn minds over. I'm so scared that I'm gonna hate them. I'm so scared that I'm not gonna like them, and then everybody's gonna get mad at me, and then I'm not gonna know what to post, and it's gonna be a whole thing. And so those are ACOTAR and Fourth Wing. I have the entire series, so I really want to like it. I've heard that this book specifically is not the strongest in the series. I think it's either Mist and Fury or Wings and Ruin. I've read so much fantasy in my life that I'm just so afraid that it's gonna suck. Or not that it's gonna suck, that it's just gonna seem like the stakes are low, because I've read some like intense fantasy. I've played a lot of fantasy video games, watched a lot of fantasy movies where the stakes really are high, and so I'm afraid that these are not gonna be that high. But I do want to read it because I'm so afraid that I'm gonna get spoiled by everything. And I know the love interest changes over time. That's fair. That's expected, even, from reading Foxglove King. However, I don't know. There's just too much hype, you know? Too much hype. Same with this guy, too much hype. And everybody says that it's so good, but then there are some who are like, this sucks. How could you like this? And I'm like, oh no, am I gonna be a hater or am I gonna be a lover? I think I just need to read them away from other fantasy. Like, not nearby. I need to read it in the middle of like a thriller or romance moods. Whereas I'm not comparing it to anything, and I think I'll like it better. So I'm thinking maybe in the fall. I don't tend to read as much fantasy in the fall. I read a lot of thrillers in the fall. So maybe that'll be the key. I'm not sure. Next question is a book that you've enjoyed that has mixed reviews. So I'm counting mixed reviews as in I've seen videos about it online or like posts that it wasn't everybody's favorite. However, I really, really liked it. The Fury by Alex Michaelides. I thought that this character was so dramatic and over the top and self-indulged and self-important that it was just a blast. If you love reality TV, this is it. If you think that the housewives one day are going to devolve a reunion episode into murder, this is it. It's so good. And I still have to read The Silent Patient by him, but The Maidens is still my favorite book so far by this author. Respects Your Time, cool cover. I heard Jordaline say that she hated this cover, and that made me really sad because it's the Evil Eye, man. What else do you need? The Evil Eye and the Grecian Coast. Oh, next question is a series that you want to finish by the end of the year. So, talked about this series before. It's actually technically two series that are interconnected, that are happening not at the same time, but their stories intertwine at certain points, and then I think their timelines converge. I hope so, because I've only just finished the one series, going on to the next. But that is the From Blood and Ash series and the Flesh and Fire series. There are so many. There are so many, and they're so big, and I just am so excited to continue them. I really hate that they're different sizes. Amazon really screwed me over there, and that's why I hate Amazon with a passion. However, that's not something that I can fix. It is if I return them, but it's too late, and I don't want to go through the process of selling them and trying to find one just for a couple of inches. Because, ladies, is a couple of inches that worth it that much? I need to cut that out. Anyway, this is such a big series. I've read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now I need to read 1, 2, 3. I'm very excited about it, and I hope that it is just as good as it has been so far. The War of Two Queens kind of went downhill a little bit, but I talked about that in a wrap-up earlier this year, and so I hope that the Flesh and Fire series kind of brings it back to its former glory. 5-star predictions for the rest of the year. For sake of not repeating myself, hint, hint, Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. I think another series author, whatever, that has the potential to be a 5-star is the Chestnut Springs series by Elsie Silver. Everybody loses their damn minds over this, and I'm kind of cautious to read it for that reason. However, I think it's going to be a good time, and I think that at least one of them will be a 5-star. And I'm staking that claim, and we'll see if I come to regret that statement. Next question is, do you think you'll reach your reading goal? And if not, are you going to change it? I do think I'm going to reach it. I've read over 50 books so far this year, and my goal is 100. So if I stay on the same trajectory, I'll do more than that. I read 96 last year, and so I want to reach that even 100. I think it'll be good. I'll probably surpass it unless I hit a slump, which very well could happen. I'm currently not working right now, and so whenever I do start back, I think that could take a dip on my productivity, or if I get really into a video game series, that could potentially take a dip in that regard as well. And the last question is, do you have any new goals for the rest of the year? So I think that my new goal is going to be to read more epic fantasy. I've been reading a lot of like romance fantasy and some fantasy light in that regard. But one series in particular that I really want to read, but I'm very intimidated by, is John Gwynn's The Faithful and the Fallen series. I have the first one right here. They had it at my library. And so this sucker is huge. I'm not gonna say that I'm gonna read a Brandon Sanderson, 1,000-something pages. I'm just not gonna read it. However, this is over 600. So I don't know. Sid from Sid Bookworm said that this is a lot like Skyrim when it comes to like the plot line, the main storyline, the Civil War aspect of it, the world building. I hope I didn't mess myself up by going into it with too much expectation, but it looks really cool. And there's only 4 of them, I think. It could be good. It could suck. That's why I didn't buy it. I got it from the library. So we'll see if I have the time near soon. If not, I'll turn it back in and then I'll check it back out maybe later in the summer when I tend to read fantasies in the summer. So we'll see. But anyway, that is the end of the questions. Do you have any more questions for me specifically? Feel free to leave them down in the comments. Like this video if you like this video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Please let me know if you have any other video ideas down below. I don't tend to do reading vlogs as much. I love more of a sit-down video, but if you'd like reading vlogs, just let me know. Or if you'd like any video game content or any other book-related content, let me know. I have some things in the works. I actually had a subscriber comment on one of my much older videos and say that she loved the library haul. So let me know if that's something that y'all are into. I know I've only done the one book haul this year. I have bought some books, pretty much only new releases or things at like library sales and whatnot. If you would like a library book haul, definitely let me know because I go all the time, so it changes all the time. Anyway, I love you all. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Make good choices, support your local library, and happy reading.